Welcome back to Packers Derailed, brought to you by PackerProject.com. Here with my good friend Jake Schyvinck. You may notice no music this evening, at the beginning of the show. There's no music at the end of the show either tonight because Facebook decided to permaban me, and I had to send them several basically handwritten letters begging for them to do manual reviews, even though we have licensing to use the music we were using. So we're just going to push pause on the music for right now because it's just not worth it. Not worth it. So that's what we got. Jake, we're talking Packers today. We change it up here on Packers Derailed, talk about the Green Bay Packers. Training camp is back underway. You know what I think we should do, Jake? I think we should bring this goodie back. It's time. Football is back. Feels good, doesn't it? I mean, this is more football than we've had in a very long time, okay, Jake?
Sort of back. It's not really back. The game Thursday is going to be disgusting. But it works. It works.
I'm actually going to be going to family night. I'm really excited. It's going to be my first time going to family night. I've never done that before. So, Jake, have you ever been to family night?
I have, long time ago.
Is it a good time?
It's good, yeah. It's fun to see all the players in action for a practice. I think if I were to go back again, I think it would be more of like bringing like my future children and like, you know, having them experience that excitement. But I was lucky enough to kind of experience that excitement as a kid as well. So I understand the draw. It is a very cool atmosphere in, again, of course, a stadium unlike any other to experience that. So that's an exciting thing. Honestly, doing stuff like that to me is more exciting than kind of the preseason games, especially the one, you know, that we have this week on tap. So,
yeah, no, for sure. We got the Hall of Fame game, right? Isn't that this Thursday?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
I've never watched the Hall of Fame game in my life. I've also never watched the Pro Bowl in my life. Don't intend to make that change this year either. I don't even know who's in the Hall of Fame game. Who is it this year? Is it
Carolina and Arizona? Kenny Pickett.
Oh, come on.
Kenny Pickett is getting the start. Well, it's Kuechly and Fitzgerald are going in. So they usually pick teams of the players who are going in the hall. So yeah, Kenny Pickett getting the start, all that good stuff. We won't see any Jeremiah Love probably. Just aren't going to see many guys that you know of. I will say if Jackson Kuwach plays for the Panthers, I'm going to be watching some of that game. 7th round pick linebacker. So there's going to be some stuff, but it's kind of by the third quarter, you're going to be like, man, listen, it's cool that they're playing.
I won't because I'm not watching,
but yeah, it'll be rough. This is funny from Kawato here saying if the Hall of Fame field is playable, funny enough, that's the Hall of Fame game I went to, the one where they did not play. I was there for Favre's speech and Hall of Fame stuff, and of course we go to the game, the field was not good enough for Packers Colts that day. Funny enough, so that is the one. That's the one I've been to. The one they didn't end up playing. Really good stuff.
The thing is, only the people who are actually there in attendance would care at all that it got canceled.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're already here.
Brutal.
Might as well watch some of the end of the roster guys play. And it's like, nope, guess we're not playing. You see all these guys walking out on the field. They're all talking. Didn't really know anything. Honestly, found out via tweet that they weren't playing, not from like an announcement in the stadium or anything like that. And was kind of spreading that around.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So I heard it. I was reading it on Twitter, and I'm sure other people did as well. But I'm like telling people on, around me, like, hey, they're not playing this thing. Which is kind of what we were
that sounds like
that was going to be the case.
That sounds like reading about people's experiences when they go attend the MLB draft in person, and they're like, yeah, they don't do anything. We're all sitting on our phones reading about what's going on the ESPN app and on Twitter because they're not telling us anything here. We have no idea who's getting picked. We have no idea. They're not telling us who any of these players are, like once you get past the guys we've heard of. So, yeah. I like Jen's comment here. Football is back. Not watching that crap, though, the Hall of Fame game. So, yeah, I am. The reason I'm going is we're taking my 3-year-old daughter. She's 3 right now, but she's turning 4. And this is what she wanted to do. She said she wanted to go to Lambeau Field for her birthday, and I was like, holy smokes! It lines up perfectly with the Hall of Fame game, or Hall of Fame game, family night for family night. I would never subject my poor daughter to a Hall of Fame game. Family night, different matter. All right, she's turning 4. I feel like she's like the perfect age, to go have a great time at family night. So that'll be fun. This will also be my son's first visit to Lambeau outside the womb. Both of my kids have visited in utero. And then we took my daughter there for the Packers-Ravens preseason game. What was that, 2023, I think? Or 2024. And she had a blast there. So, yeah. So we'll start getting into all the news and notes from training camp here. I want to start with this one from Drew. Is Hargrave's injury serious, or will he be back for the start of the season? So, he's still on PUP with a knee issue through the first 5 practices. I don't get the sense that we have any indication one way or another how long he's expected to be out. I'm a little nervous that he's still on PUP today. That doesn't make me feel great. We're seeing a lot of like Warren Brinson, Carl Brooks getting first team reps right now so far. So I would say maybe get out your highlighter, circle Hargrave's name on your board of like guys we're hoping for some updates about pretty soon. Jake, I don't know if you heard anything that I missed regarding Hargrave, but it seems like right now we're just kind of crickets on Hargrave.
Yep. I have no clue. No clue what the timeline looks like.
Let's go to Zach Tom. He's got a new name, changing his name. We've seen this a few times in recent years from professional athletes. Jason Owe is now Odafe Owe. Tim Watson, Christian Watson's dad, is Tazim Wajed. All right. Happens every couple of years. So Zach Tom is now, I'm just got to clarify, because I told one person about this so far, and this person didn't take me seriously and thought I was trying to make a joke. So just to be clear, this is a real thing. He's now Zach Bako-Bewele. Wanted to pay tribute to his Nigerian grandparents. I guess he took Bako from one Nigerian grandparent and Bewele from another Nigerian grandparent. Wants to honor his heritage. I'm going to say, I see a lot of people talking about this online. I really only have one actual takeaway from this. All right, I hope Bako-Bewele can still Bako-Wele. If he can do his job, I'm good. If we see any kind of he's kind of thrown off his game, and it happens to coincide with the name change, I'm just going to be grumpy in general. But if he does his job, I'm happy. Don't let Jordan Love get hit. It's a little harder to say, but you know what? This fan base managed to say David Bakhtiari for years, even when the announcers couldn't. I remember, who was it? Was it? I think it was Troy Aikman. Couldn't say David Bakhtiari. This was in like 2020.
Is it like Bakari or something?
I think no. It was Bakhtiara. Tiara, like a princess tiara. Dave Bakhtiara is what he was calling him. And this was late, right? This is, I think, like late 2021 or something. It's like when he came back after his injury and he's back in the game. Obviously misses at least the first half of the 2021 season. But anyways, look, this fan base has managed some other difficult to pronounce names. So feel like give us a couple weeks. We'll be good with this one. And look, we called David Bakhtiari D-Bach a lot, and I just saw where'd it go. Somebody said in the chat, here we go, Jen, Z-Bach is a great nickname. There you go, Z-Bach. I like it. Z-Bach, isn't there like a big African mammal with a similar name? It's like Ebok or something. It's some sort of big like horned stripy beast.
You got Star Wars on the brain with Ewok? Is that where your mind?
No, but that helps too, right? Yeah. Star Wars has Ewoks and Minox. So, Jen says Finland Night is better than the Hall of Fame game. Obviously. Drew says Zach Bako-Bewele is going to have a career year. Hey, let's hope so. I'll just say I think we're all a little nervous about Zach, regardless of the last name, about Zach and like coming off the injury, right? It's just, man, never something that you feel good about. Real quick, I got to change this. Boom. Had to get our stuff on the screen here. Daddy Zap says Bako-Bewele. You know what? Spelling it out phonetically like that is helpful for pronouncing it right, but that's definitely not how you spell it. Bako-Bewele makes him go from Pro Bowl caliber to all pro caliber. Fair enough.
Yeah, Zach Tom doesn't sound like a player who strikes fear into the heart of an opposing defensive line at all.
Well,
seems like a jolly Zach Tom sounds like a jolly fella. Zach Bako-Bewele sounds like somebody who's gonna wreck shop on Sundays, which is cool. So I dig it. But yes, I think the biggest thing is how are we gonna do off the patellar tendon injury, right? Like that's really the biggest thing for him at this point, as pretty much the anchor of this offensive line that's got just question mark after question mark after question mark. So yeah.
I see people suggesting African mammals in the chat. I think Daddy Zap had the right one I was thinking about, the ibex. So it's not very similar to Zebok, but, maybe the same energy.
The 4 letters.
Hoodoo also has 4 letters, as Jen points out. And so does Omer. Omer has 4 letters, too. I don't think I was thinking of Omer, but that's all right. What's the saying? Never trust a man with 2 first names? He resolved that. I saw somebody on social media was saying, hey, my first name is Tom, and I was thinking about changing it to Bako-Bewele, but now I feel like I'll just be copying Zach, so I'm not going to do that anymore.
That's funny. That's good.
So, Drew says, just think Canadian. Bewele. Yeah, I like it. Bako-Bewele. Okay, let's shift, I guess, let's focus on, I think the overarching theme for training camp so far is that
Baker stinks.
Well, it's to be expected, right? It's just, and the wheels on the bus go round and round. But
man.
I think that the defense seems reassuring. Seems like the defense has been doing pretty well. One of our really big questions that we've had this entire time is Jonathan Gannon going to be a better fit for what we're trying to do, since his whole thing is what players do you have? Now I'll be able to scheme around them. They basically just now got any kind of pads on, so it's stinking early to say anything. But you see that they're practicing a lot of disguised looks and late blitzes in camp, which I think is obviously a good thing to be working on this early. I like that. I like that he feels confident with having those guys, execute that kind of stuff early on. Certainly tricky to sort through what this tells us about the defense versus what this tells us about the state of the offensive line. That makes me nervous. Seems like the offensive line is probably the number one concern that you have. And I'll say, certainly like once they got pads on, there was suddenly a tone shift of like, oh, I guess they can run the ball. That's different. That's cool that you weren't seeing that early on. But a consistent thing they have had this entire time is that Christian Watson and Matthew Golden have looked pretty good and pretty dangerous. Having said that, and Jordan Love has looked really good. Having said that, the offense certainly has been sputtering so far in training camp. And the defense has certainly been, the big positive takeaway for at least the first 4 practices, maybe less so on day 5 when they got the pads on. Where's your concern level at right now with the state of the offensive line, and how do you balance that concern with enthusiasm for the defense, optimism for the defense?
I mean, I think it's the same. I think it's at the same spot as it's been since we've kind of been talking all off season about where this unit was going to be at. It was going to be okay. Jordan Morgan's taking over at a spot he should be familiar with.
Yeah.
But it's at the NFL level versus the college level. Anthony Belton's got a home at guard, which we kind of thought that was going to be the case. At least I did at the time when they drafted him, of like, this is kind of what I think their philosophy is going to be, is they're going to move him inside. Ryan gets the offseason at center. Banks is Banks. And then you got Tom coming back from injury. And it's like, well, your best guy's coming off of an injury that's a big deal. Like, it's a big deal injury. And that's your best guy coming off injury. And your second best guy, at least from last season, is a guy who switched positions midseason. And it's like, yeah, you would assume that an offseason would make him get better, but you don't know. We're not sure what the offseason is going to do for him. Maybe he does become a much better player. They give him that contract and it works out. Just no guarantees. Same with Belton. I think there's been a lot of, a little bit of blurbs out there about Belton doing some nice stuff in pass pro. That's great. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be very important. Of course, I'd take the pass pro over the run game stuff any day for sure. That it needs to be weighted that way, I think, when you're talking about guys, but it's still very early. And I think like this is pretty much the unit that is going to keep them from making a run in the postseason. So I think when you get to the postseason, right, when you think about this unit versus teams you think you're going to be playing against, right? Save the North, right? I don't think any of those units are going to be particularly fearsome rushing the passer unless they add somebody via trade. But you look at where Seattle is, even with losing some guys, still a dominant force. The Rams add Myles Garrett to their line. I mean,
Myles Garrett.
For all his faults and taking plays off, Jalen Carter sticking around in Philly. They brought Grenard in, right? Like that's still a formidable unit. Jordan Davis is playing up to his potential a lot more than he has been in previous years. So you look at that unit, and even I think if the substation doesn't get them before season's end, like Bosa coming back, Odigizua, and the mishmash of other guys they put in there, West, Collins, Height, Halton, like all of that stuff, even though some guys are getting banged up early, that's still not a unit I would want to face. And unfortunately, hate to go here, Dallas is another one where it's like they've say for all you want about Gary and Clark and some of those guys, but without Odigizua, Lawrence added to that unit, Barham added to that unit, Ezraku coming back. Like, there's very clearly a lot in that room. It doesn't matter if it's like not as maybe big time as some of the other units, but they're going to be able to do a lot of what I think Christian Parker wants to do from guys he's learned under, of like when Fangio said, no, we're going to rotate like 8 guys and do it, as much as we can. And so when you get to those units, in the postseason, it's kind of like, okay, do you think this unit will be able to hold up for them to make a deep run? And part of holding up is being able to, move guys around in the run game and pass protect, right? And we're gonna obviously lean heavy towards pass protection because this unit's gonna be built through the air. But if you can't do both, they're not gonna respect you to do both. And then they're gonna be able to take some shots and take advantage of what you have up front. So it's not going to change much until we see a lot more. Like if we see some progression in there, and I think LaFleur has done a really nice job kind of hiding some mediocre to below average talent across the lines because he's, I think, such a good designer. And you have a 6th lineman in Kraft who can certainly help you out. But it's just, I don't think it's a unit where I'm like, even if they develop and take important steps, that I'm sitting here going like, this is going to be the unit that's, that they can get over the top with this unit. It just doesn't quite feel like that's the case. And so, as far as the second part of your question, it's kind of like, yeah, I think the defense showing us, okay, that they can take advantage of that is good that the defense is taking advantage of that, but also has me kind of concerned of like, yeah, Mike is not out there. Like Wyatt's, so some of these guys aren't out there. Hargrave's not out there, and they're still getting beat. And it's kind of like, okay, hopefully this is a team that can get on the same page with communication at the very least. If your communication is good, you can hide some of the deficiencies physically, right? Like if you're a good communicative team, if you're a good processing team up front with the protections, you can hide some things. But ultimately, it's just not a unit where I'm like, this is, and it shouldn't be one of the units where you're going, if this isn't a good unit, we kind of, we can only do so much. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to make a small point about the offensive line and then focus in more on the defense, which I think probably is the really interesting story here. But first, please like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, and tell a friend about our show. We really, really appreciate that. Also, we take donations to support the show. We really appreciate those at Packer Project on Venmo or on Cash App. And also we have super chats on here you can do. We really appreciate those. Helps cover some of the expenses of doing the show. So on the offensive line, I wanted to point out the current first team lineup has been left to right. Jordan Morgan, Jacob Monk, Sean Rhyan, Anthony Belton, and Darian Kinnard. Jacob Monk obviously filling in for Aaron Banks. He's been limited to individual work so far due to knee soreness. And then Zach Tom, of course, still working back from his injury. And that's kind of been the biggest obvious weak point so far would be Darian Kinnard as the temporary right tackle. Brenton Cox and Lucas Van Ness have just repeatedly generated pressure from his side. I think if you're going to be excited about the three guys who are starters, I think that is merited. Sean Rhyan so far appears completely secure at center. No reported operational problems that I've seen. Belton, continuing to seem cemented at right guard. Seems like the coaches have a lot of confidence there. And then Jordan Morgan lost a couple of reps so far to Van Ness, but no evidence yet of like any sustained concern that we should have there. So, I really do wonder how much we can take away from the fact that like you have two guys on that offensive line who are not intended to be starting at all, and you and I have repeatedly expressed our doubts that Jacob Monk is an NFL football player. Like we haven't seen any evidence yet to support that he's a much of an upgrade over like you or I being out there left guard. Put him at center, sure, that's probably a different story. But Jonathan Gannon's defense, winning so emphatically through the first four practices, doing so without Micah Parsons, without Javon Hargrave, without full-speed Devontae Wyatt. I do think that you can take away some schematic stuff. We're seeing frequent A-gap threats, three safety personnel, corner blitzes. There's also the corner blitzes has me thinking a little bit actually about, because I was just talking about Jordan Morgan. There were some reports about Jordan Morgan getting out there and throwing a block on Brandon Cisse, and onlookers being really impressed with how quickly Jordan Morgan got out there. This was on day 5. Got out there, got lateral to go over there and throw the run block on Cisse. That it was just kind of like a whoa, take your breath away, kind of a rep from him. That had me kind of excited because I think we've had some concern about him in run support, and seeing him over there on the left side where we've always wanted him to be, and getting to see him flash that athleticism in a useful way, exciting. Go back to Gannon though. We've also seen Edgerrin Cooper occasionally lining up on the edge. Not that surprising in terms of like, hey, they got some edge depth problems. But that does make me wonder, like, you don't really have any middle linebackers either. Like, when he's doing that, who's out there in the middle of the field? Like, Zaire and who? That's what I want to know. heavy post snap rotation, a lot of disguising. I guess you're like we're seeing what we thought we'd see out of him, right? Good communicator, good emotional leader. Remains to be seen how well the physical half of his game is going to hold up, but the good stuff we thought we'd get from him seems like it's showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing about Cooper on the line, kind of at quote unquote edge, I mean, I think it comes down to like kind of basically just shifting into a penny front, right? Where Ohio State did this with Reese a bunch, right? Like that's not something that's
helps when you got Sonny Styles and you got All-American.
Sure, for sure. I mean,
early first round linebacker to cover up the middle of the field.
For sure, but in theory, right, Zaire Franklin's going to be your linebacker, even if you get into 6-1 fronts, but again, mostly 5-1 stuff where you have guys on the line. Zach Bond did this in Philly, right? Like, so this isn't like Gannon's bringing some of that over to Green Bay, which if you're going to have somebody on the line like that of the linebackers, like I get that like kind of Isaiah McDuffie does this sort of hybrid thing, and that's maybe someone who would get that treatment as well. But I do think I understand why they're doing some of that, because it that front allows you to feel like you have a lot of numbers up front with the ability to have somebody retreat pretty quickly with that athleticism. So it does give you, I get what they're getting at, because that front does give you some serious strengths, right? When you can get to it. I don't imagine it's going to be something they're doing extremely often. But again, I think it kind of lends itself to what you were talking about the, Gannon's going to kind of throw a lot of stuff at this unit, because there's a lot of vets on it, right,
yes,
that are coming in. And I think guys who I assume he trusts to be able to handle kind of the different stuff he's kind of throw at teams, right? McKinney, Evan Williams, I think are two of those. I think the linebackers he's going to trust a lot. And ultimately in a scheme like this, you do have to trust the linebackers a lot. And so putting a lot on their plate right now is a good thing, to where, week 5, 6, 7, 8, they're getting into a point of like feeling true comfort in the scheme like this. And yeah, obviously, when you've got your big guns back, that's going to only help and continue to throw stuff at opposing offenses. Because I think the more that you look at, like, you want to have defensively some static looks, but you would love to be dynamic with plenty of it. And so, the Minter and McDonald stuff is kind of controlled chaos at sometimes. And I think that's kind of what Gannon would like to do. And when all these guys come back, they're hopefully coming back at a reasonable time. Like, you're going to get to do just a lot of different things because of the trust he has, I think, in truly the spine of the defense, and then just hopefully get some adequate play outside the hashes from our corner room. So,
you want to talk about Jordan Love? I feel like what we've seen so far has been Jordan Love playing better than the offense as a whole. His first camp interception didn't come until practice number 5. He's been decisive and accurate, despite the defense constantly winning up front. Seems like with Matthew Golden, as expected, functioning as the featured X, not, being treated like, hey, we're going to shove you into this small rookie role that you had last year, that we've just seen them like to do so consistently. Seems like there is some chemistry and connection between those two guys that is really encouraging. Obviously, the connection is still there with Christian Watson, who appears healthy, explosive, obviously versatile. He and Golden have pretty clearly been Love's most dangerous outside combination, with Jayden Reed remaining the motion screen slot return game weapon. Savion also getting mixed in as a gadget runner. Looking good in blocking. Pass pro run blocking has been really encouraging. And has had some nice receptions as well. I don't have any kind of eyeballs to tell you like how his route running looks, but he's had some nice catches per all the reports. So,
and well, I think Savion, the blocking stuff is really important because if he can block and he's shown that ability, you can stick him into these condensed formations and okay, we trust him as a blocker. Teams have to respect him as a blocker, and then you can just sneak him behind second level players on play action where he can just outrun everybody, right? Like that's if he can do that, he's going to be a weapon in that part of the game. Simply if Green Bay lives in a lot of 11, right? Which with their tight end room kind of where it is, they might have to do that, which they've shown to be very capable of handling it, right? Where they've got the trio in tow right now that are, if not clearly defined roles, but clearly defined skill sets and how they're going to be utilized in terms of route combinations. But yes, if Savion can do that, like that's going to give him a lot of the opportunities that some of these tight ends get, and a lot of what these blocking receivers get. Right, we kind of talked about that revolution. Puka Nacua was a big part of it. Right, St. Brown's obviously a big part of it as a good blocker. Right, like that he gets ISO matchups now on the second level. So getting Savion that type of thing, and Savion's got a different gear than some of those guys I mentioned, of course. And so that even makes it more lethal of like, yeah, you're going to have to respect him as like an insert blocker at times like Puka has been doing. And then, oh no, he can sneak behind the defense on play action. It's tough to defend. It's tough to defend when you got guys who can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I have some notes from the practices on Savion. You want to hear some of these? Because he's just such an interesting developmental guy here. First practice. So let's see here. Practice 1, St. Jude stops a design Williams run. Practice 2, made a catch in traffic and helped spring Reed's screen with a block. Practice 3, caught a pass for 14 yards. Had another difficult diving opportunity, but fell incomplete. St. Jude had a pick 6 off of Tyrod Taylor in practice 3 on a throw intended for Savion. Tyrod has had a lot of pick 6s, so, might be more inclined to blame the QB in this case.
I think I hopefully it's just Tyrod Taylor, like, as a veteran trying to test these guys in second team. Like hopefully that's his approach out there of like, no, I'm gonna see how good these guys are and really challenge them out there, which I have no problem with that being the case at all.
Hopefully we're not wish casting here.
Maybe not, but that's what QB should be doing. This training camp, try stuff, see what you can get away with throwing the football, but also see what, test the defenders, figure out if they've got it or not right now, like especially the young guys. Like that's
sure.
I think a great approach if that's the approach Taylor's taking. No guarantees, just saying if that is the case. I like it.
Practice 4, lost ground on an end around when the defense diagnosed it, then answered with a strong slant reception from Love. A sizable wrap was visible on his leg, but he continued practicing anyways. Practice 5, won a pass pro rep against a Cisse pressure, giving Love enough time to reach Golden. LaFleur praised Savion's opening practice, but emphasized that he must show the same level consistently to keep earning reps.
Yeah.
Seems like there's maybe a bit of a mixed bag, and that the coaches don't have the trust in him that you'd want to see at this point. Despite me kind of liking some of what we're seeing from him, seems like the coaches are not as thrilled.
Yeah, I don't like typecasting, but as you've mentioned, JJ, sometimes this is the case. It seems like these guys out of TCU at receiver are kind of just being asked to be as sharp as possible to get open, not necessarily worried about where they're at landmark-wise for some of these routes. I think that might be probably the biggest disconnect, where it's like, Savion's, making explosive plays. He's blocking well, which is, probably independent of this conversation a little bit. But, like, I think that might be a TCU thing with how they're, teaching their wide receivers is just kind of like get to open space as quickly as possible, create open space as quickly as possible. Don't worry about the timing, tempo, landmark part of this. just get open. And that's kind of maybe what people, what LaFleur and what the coaching staff is seeing from Savion, right? Where it's like, yes, really talented mover, really flexible, explosive athlete, but can he run this at 10 yards? Can he run this at 12 yards? Is he getting open too early, right? There's great conversations about receiver play of like guys just getting open far too early in the progression where they shouldn't be. They're off tempo, they're off timing, and that might be where Savion's kind of like, okay, he made some of his biggest plays last season on either gadget touches or, the big one that comes to mind is the Love breakdown, scrambling, make something happen against the Giants where Savion goes, makes a play. Like very clearly Savion saying, okay, I can get to grass. Like I know what I need to do for my quarterback here. And like that is potentially what's really going on at TCU where it's like, okay, Savion's just going to need to take some time. If you're going to let him run the big boy routes, he's going to have to learn, when do I break? How do I attack this leverage? Where do I stem in this route combination to have good spacing? Like all of these little things that I think we, with no disrespect to him, that the casual fans are kind of not as concerned about, right? Where it's like, okay, is he open versus like, okay, what are, versus a single high or too high, what is the differences of what I'm supposed to be running? How does it look, against different coverages? How does it look when we alert something here? And like, there's just, I think so much detail that goes into it beyond the just getting open of like when, how, all of that stuff that I think is going into year 2 from a round 3 pick who had a lot of gadget touches. It's kind of like, okay, let's put a little more on his plate, see how he can handle it. If he can handle it, we'll give him a little bit more. And I think that's the approach they're going to take.
Speaking of a little bit more gadget plays, you want some terrible news? Matt LaFleur believes there's value on offense for Sky Moore, but beyond being just a return specialist. Ryan Wood says we saw a glimpse of that when Moore lined up in the backfield as a split back with Marshawn Lloyd. I hate this. Really hate this. We've seen Sky Moore in the NFL as a wide receiver. Don't need any more of that. Don't need any more of him on offense. Okay? He can be a return specialist. I love having a dedicated return specialist. That's all I want. Don't want anything else, please. LaFleur praises Moore's return burst and said the team is not closing the door on an offensive role. In practice 5, Moore was the first punt returner while the gunner groups were being reshuffled. He did make a leaping touchdown catch near the pylon on a pass from Tyrod Taylor in practice 1. Practice 2 caught a hot read from Love before Bullard punched the ball loose and later converted a third down. I don't think I can read any more of this. The rest of it's awful. Here we go. Practice 4 caught a touchdown from Tyrod Taylor immediately after the hook and lateral period and later misjudged a punt. Practice 3, Keyshawn Nixon broke up a pass intended for Sky Moore. Practice 5, the defense stopped 2 third-down chances involving Sky Moore, including a clear drop on an open crossing route. Have I made my case, or do I need to continue? I don't think I need to continue.
I think you're good.
You want some Bo Melton? Bo Melton looking good back at wide receiver. Another productive summer. Another productive summer for Bo Melton, who continues to create explosive plays, working with the reserve quarterbacks. He has been mixed into the first team scoring work a little bit. Practice 3 beat Jonathan Baldwin for a deep completion from Tyrod Taylor. Practice 4 caught Love's red zone touchdown and was the middle player in the Taylor to Melton to Strong hook and lateral. Practice 5, Tyrod Taylor connects with him on another deep ball against Jalen Simpson. Forgot about Jalen Simpson, I'm going to be honest. So Melton has made comments about how happy he is to be back in the wide receiver room. I think here's what we can take away from the 1-year experiment of moving him to corner. It kept him on the roster, right? I think he was going to be
in a loaded receiver room. Yeah.
Yeah. So he survived. He survived the wide receiver purge, right? It was a very crowded room last year. It's no longer a crowded room. He can probably be your wide receiver 5 or so.
Yeah.
This year. Hopefully he's ahead of Sky freaking Moore on the depth chart.
I think he will be. I don't think.
He has to be. I don't understand why they're giving Sky Moore these looks.
I think it's just kind of a little mini exam of like, can you actually be more than a returner in our offense? No. Okay, great. Cool. Get back to being the designated returner. Like, I have no problem giving him the opportunities, right? If you're going to put him in the backfield, you can give him easy touches where he can put kind of that returner skill set to use. Totally fine with that. But I don't think we need to make that a priority or anything. It just might be like, hey, let's see what he can do, within the confines of this part of our scheme. If he, if this isn't really as effective, if we can get this out of Reed, if we can get this out of Savion, if we can get this out of Bo Melton, okay, great. And so if that's, again, more of a kind of a trial thing, for camp, totally fine. As you said, if it's happening in game, I have questions because you, I think, have 5 guys on the roster who are clearly, just flat out better, and then a couple others that you're, kind of maybe have some hope for. So yeah, I think you leave the return stuff to Sky Moore and don't give him too much else on his plate. Because yeah, I have no problem if Bo Melton's that guy. Split out there. Jayden Reed, no problem if he's that guy, right? If you're in certain formations, like even in 11, like motion him into the backfield, see, how the defense adjusts and see what matchups you can create from plays like that. Like that seems like, just something that, let's get some trial out there and see what happens.
By the way,
probably still will do in preseason as well. I'm sure that will come up in the preseason. Maybe not with the first team, but we'll see.
We'll see. That'll be interesting. By the way, to the people in the chat, I see a lot of your questions on position groups we're not talking about yet. Keep those coming. As they come in, if it's like a position group we haven't talked about or whatever, I'm hitting the little star button so we can come back to it. So if I like your question, we will come back to it, unless we just get like totally overrun with good questions. So I just don't want you to think that like if I don't hit a question on a different position group that like I'm ignoring it. Yeah. We'll just circle back on those when we can. I did see. Where's Coach Len's comment? Here goes.
Can I? Okay. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this before Omer gets out of here, really quickly. I think he might have dipped already, but thinking about you, buddy. Appreciate you coming in, and just hope all goes well tomorrow from all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Praying for you for sure, big time.
Yes.
Love you, buddy. Drew says time for a 53-man roster prediction. Heck no, not yet. What I do want to do, though, I put in a little blurb at the end of our last live stream asking you guys to go over to our Substack. So it's packerproject.substack.com, or you can go to packerproject.com and click on the Substack button up at the top. It's a free Substack. Please go join it. I started a group chat on there, and I would like you guys to participate in that. What would be really, really cool is if I could put like some surveys and polls and stuff in that to have you guys weigh in on some stuff. There's a exercise that I really want to do on this pod with Jake and with you guys where we go through and rate confidence level in the position groups. And I want to have 3 numbers for each of these position groups. I want my rating, Jake's rating, and then the average of all the chat's rating. So far we had one person. It was Brian Maffei. Was the only person I think who has done anything in that group chat. So please check that out. It's my second call out for that. We'll probably do a third and a fourth. But like if I could get you guys over there, that's like a spot, because like we talked to you during the stream in this chat here, but then that's not great for like when I want to put out something like a survey. Like I need somewhere else I can put that if you guys are interested in participating with that. So that's just like a great spot for like the dedicated, educated, loyal Packers derailed super fans to hang out with us. It's free, all right? You don't have to pay a cent. So just hop in that group chat with us. We super appreciate it. And if that chat gets hopping, we might have some exclusive subscriber-only goodies that we'll toss in there for you guys that everybody else doesn't get access to. So, okay. Coach Len says, thoughts on J. Michael Sturdivant or Isaiah Nair making the roster. So we'll go through the notes that I pulled together on those two guys. Overall conclusion is that he's separating on routes, but leaving production on the field through drops. So practice 2. Sturdivant creates room for a well-placed throw from Honda McCord, then failed to finish another opportunity later. That's per Bill Huber. Practice number 3. Made 2 useful catches in situational work, including a third down conversion, but dropped a well-thrown Chiron drones pass on another conversion opportunity. It was the second straight practice with a notable drop. Andy Herman had that note. Practice 4. Took a first-team gunner rep with Mark Perry. Practice 5. Jalen Simpson makes an outstanding sideline breakup on a pass intended for Sturdivant. The drops are brutal and backbreaking. You can't have those, man. It is that last spot that you're competing for, way too tough of a competition for that. Like, clean those up, J. Michael. Do you have any comments on J. Michael before I move on to Nair?
Yeah, lots of expectation. We really like that UDFA signing. But yeah, can't drop the football, period. That's really the name of it. Like, I'm not that big a fan of Nair, really. I think he's just kind of all athlete out there at this point. But yeah, really unfortunate. And, hopefully we see something in the preseason from one or both of these guys to have them stashed away at the practice squad. But again, 2 guys who I think at this point in time, are kind of guys that I don't know. I'm not thinking are going to be giving, are going to be key factors this year. And if they are, even Shepard as well, like, I think we, are looking at some not great results. So.
Yeah, disappointing so far, but we'll see, how things shake out there. Isaiah Nair. Notes I have from practice. Practice 1, made the offensive play of the day, adjusting to Chiron Drone's escape and catching a difficult touchdown pass. Practice 2 was the intended receiver on Baldwin's interception of Terod Taylor. I feel like we've seen that a couple times now because Terod Taylor has so many pick sixes and interceptions. Practice 3, beats Baldwin for a deep completion from Terod Taylor and also caught a pass during Honda McCord's positive situational sequence. You like that they just said, like, singular, like during his positive situational sequence, not during one of his several that happened. Just during the one that happened. Okay. Practice 5, won a 3rd and 5 sideline catch against Mark Perry. Special teams, he has been receiving gunner work in practice 5, a meaningful piece. Skipping that part. I think the biggest takeaway, too, like with Nair and Sturdivant, look at who they're going up against and who they're catching passes from. Like, they're not getting any of those first-team reps. They're not going against, like, what do you expect from Mark Perry or Jalen Simpson? What do you know about those guys? Do you think they're going to make the roster? Nobody thinks they're going to make the roster. And yet, like, they're, that's who, these guys are, like, in a battle for their life against in practice. It's just not what we were hoping for. We got a Lions fan in the chat here asking, are you guys going to get Parsons back for week 7? Hard to say. I'll pencil me down as no. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's certainly, like, in the range of expected outcomes. But I'll go ahead and take the cautious, the safe approach there and say no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think possibly, but this is a cornerstone. I know it's an injury that's getting more common and guys are coming back and all that stuff, but everybody's different. And, if he's not full go, all of that, like, I don't think they should be pushing it at all. If it's week 7, great. If he doesn't come back until November, that's fine. But whenever he's back, I want him to be full go and not have any question marks, any hesitancy at all. So who knows? We may not see him in October. May not see him for that Lions game. So it's just It is. It is what it is. Yeah, and like all guys are different. Elton Jenkins, it took a long time to get back to where he was. Christian Watson, somehow it didn't take that much time to get back to where he was. Like, it was making plays in that Pittsburgh game that I got to see in person. Like, you just never know. You just don't know. Like, I think like, yeah, I mean, with guys like Hutchinson too, right? Who obviously has had that, leg injury. It's kind of like, you got to make sure he's full go. And yeah, just with pillars of the organization, I just feel like you have to be just that more certain. So
I saw a comment here from Drew saying Kyron Drones remind me so much of Love. It's crazy. He's just not as far along as Love was. I felt like from the moment I first started watching Drones, which admittedly was, after we signed him as a UDFA, there was a Packers quarterback he reminded me of, but it was early stage Malik Willis. Like the really raw version of Malik Willis. But with like fewer sacks. So, there's something there.
Yeah.
Iowa Joe says, I think they should let Micah use his scooter to rush the QB. Jen says, you will need a supercharger and some NOS. Jake, have we talked about Fast and Furious on this channel before? Do we rank the Fast and Furious movies?
I don't know if we've ranked them. We may have talked about them a little bit.
Are you a Fast and Furious guy? You like Fast and Furious?
Not really. I like the memes. The memes are good. I haven't really haven't really found myself wanting to dive in head first into that universe, but like I'm open to doing so if I get a lot of recommendations to do so.
I like the first 4, I think, and then I think it's the 5th one was the one where they go to Brazil, and that was awful. And I basically have hated the whole series ever since then. I watch all of them, don't get me wrong, including the spinoff. But I'll go back and rewatch the first 4, including Tokyo Drift, and I like them a lot. But the one where they go to Brazil is so dumb. And then they just really committed to making sure that each one after that just got 5 to 10% dumber than the previous one. Joe says Fast and Furious is what JJ calls his love life.
Whoa.
Trying to think of a good comeback for that one. He got me. Roasted.
Fast and Furious is definitely Iowa Joe's next appearance on this, if he gets one.
Ayo. Any other receivers that you're interested in talking about? We didn't really touch on Jayden Reed. Do you want to do that, or do you want to move on to tight ends?
I mean, it looks good. Looks explosive. This is going to be a fast unit, a fast trio. It's exactly what we want to see him doing. Is consistently being an explosive threat on the field. When he's healthy, he is that. And
I think it's a little bit funny that LaFleur spent so many years trying to figure out who was going to be his F, and now the answer is just Jayden Reed.
Yep.
We'll just draft a slot receiver from Michigan State, and he'll be your F. Okay, let's do tight ends. So I know I had some tight ends questions, but
everyone's hurt.
Everybody's hurt. Tucker Kraft impossibly looks like Tucker Kraft. It's kind of crazy. I was listening to what's the name of the podcast? It's Tom Silverstein, Ryan Wood, and Dominique Yates. Green 19, I think it's called. Listening to them break down practice 5, and they just could not stop gushing over Tucker Kraft, which is what you were seeing from everybody else who was watching it too. He's obviously not in full team, periods. But he's moving, he's moving. The explosiveness seems to still be there. The strength still seems to be there. I think maybe we already mentioned it on this live stream already, but I kind of forget because I have talked to so many people in the last 2 days about Tucker Kraft and about the practices. But he was talking about, how his doctor was saying it's like a borderline a miracle how quickly and how well he's recovering from the injury. Whatever. This is Tucker Kraft's version of what the doctor told him, and what do we know? But it says something that Tucker Kraft, who's rehabbing an ACL, is healthier than frickin' Luke Musgrave, who's never done anything ever. Luke Lahey left padded practice, in practice 5 in a boot after catching 2 earlier camp touchdowns. We had some RJ Maryland questions, obviously, but we probably should have lumped him in more with the wide receiver conversation we just had. So, Josh Whyle has been the primary available veteran, and we're even seeing Drake Dabney getting first-team looks. So, we kind of understand what the tight end hierarchy is when everybody's fully healthy, which is Tucker Kraft and Josh Whyle. And then probably a drop-off to either Drake Dabney or Luke Musgrave as your third tight end. Goody said that week 1 was very much a possibility for Tucker Kraft. By the way, did confirm that they are working on his extension. I think we've talked about that in the pod already. But Kraft is practicing without a hold-in, saying his focus is returning to pre-injury level. He also said he's been unusually involved in the data and arguments behind his own contract case, which is kind of interesting to me. I look forward to seeing him be the highest paid tight end in football. He deserves it. I want to see that for him. I want to see him in Green Bay for many, many years. Practice 4, we had a note from Bill Huber saying that he is continuing his ramp up through individual and walk-through type work. And obviously practice 5 is the one that everybody was gushing over as he was taking part in individual and run blocking drills, but still did not enter the full team periods. And Luke Musgrave just continues to be a useless person. That's just I probably shouldn't hold a neck injury against him, but we don't have anything to credit him for. So all we have is that he's hurt, and when he's not hurt, you kind of wish that he was still not practicing because you don't want to watch him. And on this channel, we don't like Luke Musgrave. But Josh Whyle, all right, on a positive note, much more interesting to watch. Practice 1, drew an off-target goal line throw and absorbed a firm close by Xavier McKinney. Practice 2, Lucas Van Ness defeated Josh Whyle's block for a negative play for the offense, but Whyle later helped spring Jayden Reed's screen with a downfield block. Practice 4, caught a check down with denied Dennis-Sutton in coverage. I know Jake is excited about that note. Zaire Franklin later had an exceptionally good rep staying with Josh Whyle on a seam route. I'll choose to take that as a positive for Zaire. So, look, it's not looking great for him as a receiver, but seems like he has the ability to handle first-team assignments in Tucker Kraft's absence. I would say as of today, I would consider him to be a roster lock. Luke Lahey, hurt. When he wasn't hurt, looked like he was pretty promising. He caught a red zone touchdown from Terod Taylor in practice 1. He did have a bad block in practice 2. Baron Sorrell beat him to ruin a toss play. Practice 4, he caught another touchdown from Terod Taylor. And then practice 5 was when he got hurt, and he was later seen walking with a boot on his left foot or ankle. No initial diagnosis or timetable for his return from the media. But he was later seen walking around the facility later, not walking, scooting on a scooter with his left leg elevated in a walking boot. So that's a little concerning. We can talk about RJ Maryland, though. Who was it who had the RJ Maryland? Oh, what's this? Hold on. So this is... Did you see this while I was yammering away 2 minutes ago?
Oh.
Too old for this. Says hiding. What is this? What's this from?
The jewels are hiding.
What are jewels? Too old for this sent us 10 jewels? What's a jewel?
I don't know.
I'm so excited. I don't know what 10 joules are. Let me update our banner here. Let's see. So we give tip jar is
I'm looking
instead
at
of saying
support.google.com.
I'm doing.
idea what this is.
Here we go. It's too old for this. There we go. And put it back on screen. Now, instead of saying $0 in the tip jar, it says 10 joules from Tool for this. Appreciate you, my friend. I don't know what joules are, but I'm excited that we have 10 of them. Too old for this says regarding Musgrave's neck injury. The irony of him being a pain in my neck. Iowa Joe says the neck injury is whiplash from all the falls he took last year after making a catch. Accurate.
Well,
Too old for this asks, is there a show that likes Musgrave? Yes. Yes, there are shows that like Musgrave.
probably.
It is what it is. Coach Len asks, do we need to trade for a guy like Jonnu Smith or Will Dissly? I probably would be intrigued. Coach Len clarifies, not trade, but free agency pickup. I would be intrigued, for sure. To get a nice blocking tight end in here, I feel like outside of Tucker Kraft, that good run blocking tight end is not really present on the roster right now. It's like, part of the problem too is that the whole tight end room is injured right now. Messiah Swinson is injured. We just got the new guy from Australia, Thomas Yasmin. Haven't seen any notes from him at all. I'm not even sure he's at camp yet. It's possible he's not there. RJ Maryland is hurt and he's a wide receiver. Drake Dabney is healthy. So he's got the guy that going for him. Luke Lachey, hurt. Luke Musgrave, hurt. Tucker Kraft, hurt. So, I'd 100% be in on grabbing one of those guys. Jake, I'm curious, would you rather have Jonnu Smith or Will Dissly for 2026?
Probably Dissly.
That was kind of my immediate answer, but then I was really I was intrigued about the
block, so that's the deal.
But like Jonnu's thing is blocking, and
no, his thing is receiving for sure. Pittsburgh tried to have him block in the Arthur Smith regime. They tried to do it. No.
Which of the many Arthur Smith regimes?
The Pittsburgh one. They were trying to put him in a role that needed to have Darnell Washington in it, and eventually they were like, "Yeah, we can't." Eventually, even Arthur Smith's hard-headed self realized that Darnell Washington needs to be doing this, and not this guy who just is not an inline player.
Do you think there's a chance?
Decide between what type of guy you would want between those two. Do you think there's a chance that the Ohio State Buckeyes, with this new 5-for-5 rule, bring Jonnu Smith to Columbus to play under Arthur Smith there? Because he goes everywhere Arthur Smith goes. Well, maybe. Can he be a graduate? I'm a graduate transfer from the NFL. Who's going to stop me?
Look, if we know one thing, it's that if you just threaten to sue the NCAA, you'll get all the extra eligibility you want.
Listen, I get more lessons about, lawyers, litigation, all of that when someone sues the NCAA. So, congrats to all of us by pushing toward succeeding in the bar exam because of all of this, if you follow it.
Iowa Joe asks, what about Messiah Swinson? So here's the reporters who I checked.
Messiah.
None of them mentioned Messiah Swinson. Ready? So I checked everybody. I checked Bill Huber, Tom Silverstein, Ryan Wood, Andy Herman, Wes Hodkowitz, Mike Spofford. Who else is out there? I checked everybody. None of them mentioned him at any point. He's one of two players on the 91-man roster that I have zero notes for. It's Messiah Swinson and Thomas Yasmin, both tight ends. So I know there's a couple other guys I checked, but yeah. Tool for this asks, did I miss the Zach Bako-Bewele talk? Yes, that was the first topic of the show. So, we made a couple puns. Coach Len says, agreed, Jonnu is a wide receiver type tight end. I have an interesting wide receiver tight end we have. RJ Maryland. Practice 1, caught a pass from Love. Practice 3, converted during Honda McCord's 1-minute work with Jaden Nixon's pass protection pickup helping the play develop. Practice 5, did not practice because of a hamstring injury. Look, I want to see some more RJ Maryland. I just don't think that 2026 is the year we're going to see very much from him. Mostly because of the injury, and then secondarily because there's just a lot of development needed. And tertiarily, because he's a wide receiver. 12 of this says, I feel bad for Musgrave. I don't want him to lose a job from injury. I want him to lose it because Goot finally sees the liability he is. You know what? I'm gonna segue off wide receiver and follow that little rabbit trail. Can we talk about Matt Orzech possibly finally losing his job because he was hurt for training camp? So now they brought in, I don't know how to say the guy's last name. Cal Adamitis. Adamitis. I don't know which of those two. I'll say Adamitis, but it's probably wrong. So in practice 1, they had, I think, Sean Rhyan long snapping. Practice 2, we got the workout list, and they had worked out like 4 long snappers, and they signed Cal Adamitis. I don't know anything about him except that I know at some point when I was putting together lists of intriguing long snappers that I thought the Packers should be looking at, I know that at one point Cal Adamitis was the top option that I had ranked. I have since forgotten everything I ever knew about him, and I'm not sure what list that was that I wrote him down on. But it is interesting. Like, so they bring him in, obviously, just to, fill in for the fact that you don't have a long snapper. He's going to be a lot cheaper than Matt Orzech, who, for some reason, they gave a big extension to. He did have a low snap in practice 4 on a 39-yard miss from Trey Smack. Have not seen any other negative notes from him, just the one low snap. But man, it would just be so intriguing after all these years of us grousing about the fact that Matt Orzech was just bad at his job. It just would be really interesting if we have a new long snapper now permanently moving forward just because of an injury. It's a very Brian Gutekunst thing to do it this way, but
listen, Michael Mayer's a free agent next year. Could be a nice little budget tight end 2 situation, if you want to shell out some money there. But obviously that doesn't help with this season. So as Coach Led is saying, Rams have 10 tight ends. Maybe we can trade for one. Maybe.
He does the segue after he says so we get a non sequitur and then the segue that I was trying to figure out, is he talking about a tight end for a long snapper thing? What's going on here?
No.
Coach Len says, bet Goody wishes he had drafted a tight end now, but they went so fast in this draft. No, man, look, every year there are some positions that we look at and we're like, hey, clear position of need, clear surplus of available talent, in action. It happens every year. This year, one of those was tight end.
Daquan Wright was a UDFA pickup by Philly. Guy we talked about a lot. Philly picked him up as an undrafted free agent. Isn't it crazy?
He's looking so good so far. Yeah.
So, it doesn't even have to be drafted, but yes, obviously you can prevent somebody from going to undrafted free agency if you keep your picks and don't trade up for a kicker. But anyway, it is what it is.
Let's do Marshawn Lloyd. A lot of people wanted to know about Marshawn Lloyd. Okay. I got some wood. Knock on some wood, Jake. All right? We all understand the situation, right? So let's just talk about what we have seen, okay? What we have seen is that he looks good. When you watch him, you can't not think, hey, Aaron Jones. I've seen these looks from Aaron Jones before. You can't not think that when you're watching. Maybe worth pointing out, Aaron Jones had health problems early on and then eventually became relatively durable. Tool for this, don't distract me. I'm talking about Marshawn Lloyd. Notes, practice 1. Marshawn Lloyd scores on a run to the pylon, mixed into first team work, and had Zaire Franklin knock the ball loose or force an incompletion on a screen. A brief slip did not turn into another injury absence. Break out the champagne! That was almost his 111st injury. Practice 2. Baron Sorrell defeats Luke Lachey's block, and John Ford swallows up a toss play to Marshawn Lloyd. Practice 4. Baron Sorrell and Zaire Franklin combined to stop another Lloyd run. Practice 5. This is when the pads came on. He broke off 2 chunk runs, and this was the day that everybody started saying, hey, maybe we can run the ball. Seems like now the pads are on. Seems like the offensive line is sort of finding their stride in the run blocking game. Interesting. So, here's the really good news. He's not on a formal snap count. However, coaches are ramping him up gradually, understandably. LaFleur has repeatedly said Lloyd must prove availability on the field. And uninterrupted practice time is part of that evaluation, as it should be.
TBD, man. TBD. I don't know. Coach Len saying Lloyd reminds me of Jonathan Franklin. That's a rough one, but understandable. Running back from Southern California who can't stay healthy. Unfortunately fits.
Comparisons. Yep. Yeah. Drew asks, who is the RB behind Lloyd right now? So the issue, of course, is that Chris Brooks is on the non-football injury list with a hamstring issue. He's missed 5 practices so far. So, crowded backup group behind him is Damian Martinez, Jaden Nixon, and Pierre Strong. They're all seemingly accumulating kind of equitable snaps. I would say kind of seems like Jaden Nixon is getting more opportunities than the other two, which is a little interesting. That's really not the direction I would have expected. If I was projecting, I would have projected him third. Let's go through the notes here. Damian Martinez. Practice 2 makes a good cutback in teamwork. Practice 3, John Ford met him decisively in the hole on one run, per Bill Huber. Practice 4, Martinez was left wide open on a wheel route and caught a touchdown from Chiron Drones. All right, so there you go. He's catching passes from the 4th-string quarterback. Jaden Nixon. Busy developmental camp. Nixon is receiving reserve backfield work and punt return opportunities. While the first padded practice exposed how difficult the interior running environment can be, Practice 1 caught a red zone touchdown from Han McCord, while Nazir Stackhouse swallowed up one of his runs. Practice 2 produced one of the reserve offense's better runs via Andy Herman. Practice 3 made an important pass pro pickup on a Katan Oladapo blitz, Katan Oladapo sighting, and converted a short yardage run. Like to see that. Jake, you can't do that. You can't do that because Oladapo played at Oregon State. He doesn't want you flashing Oregon's logo up on the screen.
I did it. Evan Williams is better right now. He's just going to have to be included in the mix here.
Do you think
his last name starts with
Oladapo hates?
Listen, I can't do it.
Do you think Oladapo hates Evan Williams?
No. That would be irrational. It'd be rational to hate the Oregon Ducks, sure. But,
yes, because football is so rational. All right, Practice 4, Jaden Crumedy, a name we all know, of course, stopped Jaden Nixon at the line. Nixon also worked as a punt returner in Practice 4, per Bill Huber. Practice 5, denied Dennis-Sutton, tossed him down for a loss. Chris McClellan blew up another run. And Mervyn Kenyon III, we talked about him. He got his own video. Go check it out on our channel. Disrupted a handoff before it developed. The versatility, I think, is what is intriguing the coaches if I were to be reading the tea leaves. The padded tape doesn't look so good. You got several negative rushing reps. The pass pro pickup, I think, is an important positive especially in LaFleur's offense for a young running back. Finally, we got Pierre Strong Jr. Practice 1, Isaiah McDuffie stopped him abruptly in the run game, per Bill Huber. Practice 2, hit more than one sharp cutback run and also fumbled. Whoops. Terod Taylor checked down to him when DDS won a pass rush rep. Practice 4 took the final lateral on a hook and lateral from Taylor through Bo Melton. The play looked like a touchdown before the practice spot marked him down. He also worked as a wing on the punt team. Practice 5 used another decisive cut to reach the secondary. Seems like Damian Martinez, our guy, maybe bottom of the pecking chart right now.
It's early.
Yeah, very early.
It's early. Talk to me in late August. I'm
looking forward.
We haven't had some real football yet, okay?
I'm really looking forward to the first.
Let me get into the real football. And also a joint practice, which there should be a player staying after said joint practice. But we'll get there when we get there.
Indeed.
It's not who you might think.
Tulfa says, Ladapo, to the O'Reilly Auto Parts tune.
Safety room.
Should we stay in the safety room here since we're talking about Oladapo? We could. We're seeing 3 safety looks, with Javon Bullard being that third safety. Obviously, playing as the slot safety. Obviously not really competing with Evan Williams for deep safety. Obviously, the safeties are the strength of the defensive backfield. We're seeing a lot of notes from Jonathan Baldwin. I'm noticing. I'm interested to see when we get a depth chart if there's anything we can learn from it, but it kind of feels like Jonathan Baldwin might be ahead of Oladapo on the depth chart right now. Here's some notes on Baldwin. Worth noting, practice number 5 ended with an injury evaluation. Left with the trainer, went inside. No initial reporting yet on any kind of a diagnosis or timeline. Practice 2, according to Bill Huber, made the defensive play of the day by intercepting Terod Taylor on a throw that we heard about earlier, intended for Isaiah Nair. Practice 3 allowed a deep completion to Bo Melton, but then answered with 2 pressures or sack plays. He's shown takeaway and blitz ability, but seems like he's moving up the depth chart, as far as I can tell. Oladapo is a second unit safety, and he's been getting reps in the slot. Presumably, he is Bullard's backup. Practice 2, Katan Oladapo nearly intercepts a pressured throw by Kyron Drones. Practice 3, blitzed on the snap where Jaden Nixon made a notable pass pro pickup. Practice 5, this is the padded practice, took slot snaps and helped stop Sky Moore on third down. On Reed's long uncovered catch, Oladapo was the only defender with an angle to prevent a touchdown. Oladapo and Bo Melton were the first gunner pair during practice 5. So that's interesting. And that bodes well, I think, for his roster status.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would say not nervous yet for Oladapo. Maybe just read this all as like a good news for Baldwin. Bullard, so far, seems like he has taken a step this offseason.
Huge.
Hard to take too much away from practices, but if you can take something away, seems like there's, positives here. Practice 1, Bullard closed on Golden during the opening competitive work. Practice 2, punched the ball away from Sky Moore. We've heard about that like 5 times now. With Xavier McKinney recovering the fumble. Bullard has credited off-season boxing and deliberate work on the punch technique. Practice 3, produced 2 pressures or sack plays on blitzes. per Bill Huber, and continue breaking up or closing on Jayden Reed targets. Practice 4, stayed tight to Reed on 2 goal line opportunities. He also worked as a wing on the punt team. Look, this is exciting. All right, I have not liked what we've seen from Javon Bullard so far. So if he really does take that next step and rounds into form as a reliable playmaker in the middle of the field, I think that would be huge, especially since we don't have a lot of trust in the corners. We're going to get to the corners because that's like easily the most interesting thing going on. But I did want to give him that credit. Any thoughts from you on the safeties before we talk about the cornerbacker?
No, I mean I think it's going to be a group with good depth. Like that's I think one of the positions right now where you feel probably the most comfortable with the depth at a certain position. Just because I think still having belief in Bullard being able to kind of flip back there if need be, and obviously, continued support of our guy Oladapo. So and to see others getting in on the mix as well is, I think, a big deal. So
I see Drew saying, I think people forget that Bullard was a talented second-round pick. I don't think so at all. I think he gets a lot of hype and credit from the fan base who think that he's already like a lockdown, excellent player. I'm the one who's not there. So if by people you mean me, I haven't forgotten where we drafted him. I didn't really like him in college at all. And have liked him less so far in the NFL than I liked him in college. But I'm very open to him really finally showing up here in year 3 and delivering like what we need from him. And if that happens, great. I'm all for it. It would just be huge. And if he's arrived, I'm going to give him his flowers. Okay, corners. You ready to do corners?
Yep.
Keyshawn Nixon was threatening to hold out in training camp, and then the first training camp, everybody was just gushing over Brandon Cisse and then Benjamin St. Juste. And so Keyshawn suddenly decided after one day of absence that his hamstring was fine and he was ready to start practicing again. Just a total coincidence. And we're glad that he's fully healthy now. Good for him. So he's obviously cemented as the starter on the outside. He's the guy going up against Matthew Golden usually. Matthew Golden was beating him a bit early on, and now Nixon has had a strong response to that. I think if you're like evaluating last year, you'd say, hey, there were some real highlights where you could see, like, sure, there's a playmaker in here. He's mostly got the athleticism that you need. He had that really nice Washington game where he had, 5 pass breakups in that game. You might ask yourself why he was targeted 5 times, especially after the first 4 pass breakups. Surely it means nothing. The biggest problem with him has always just been like the boneheaded mistakes. So if he can cut down on those, I think he's like an average corner. Is mistake free, like big boneheaded stupid mistake free. Keyshawn Nixon, a top 32 corner in the NFL. Probably, yeah, he probably is. He's probably a starting. Certainly a top 64 corner, right?
Yep.
So, whatever. We'll go through our notes here. Practice 1 cites hamstring tightness as why he can't practice, moving Brandon Cisse into the first unit. And after 1 practice of that, he's back. Like, okay, never mind, I feel good. So, practice 2, Love and Golden complete multiple passes against him, including downfield and leverage-based wins, per Bill Huber. Practice 3, rebounds with breakups against Christian Watson and Sky Moore. He broke up a pass intended for Sky Moore? No way. Probably bounced off Sky Moore's hands first. Practice 4, broke up 2 goal line throws intended for Golden. He also misjudged a punt during return work. Not what you want to see, but whatever. We got Sky Moore to be misjudging punts. So Keyshawn doesn't need to concern himself with misjudging punts. He has repeatedly declined questions about his contract. Says he wants to keep the focus on football. I will say, when he's off the field, he certainly likes to talk the talk. That guy has a lot of words, and he wants everybody to hear him. He did say, regarding football, his first full season outside on the defense last year improved his understanding of the position, and he has now leaned further into film study. So that's good. That's good. We'll come back to Carrington Valentine, because I think the next two guys are way more interesting to everybody. Brandon Cisse, practice 1. Closed quickly on a golden reception and handled the first unit opposite Valentine. Practice 2, rotated with the starters. Golden beat him on a back shoulder throw, but Cisse remained in phase often enough to keep receiving high-level work. Practice 4, started opposite Nixon, ran with Golden on a crosser, and recovered to break up a pass after Bo Melton initially gained leverage. Practice 5, created a free pressure on a corner blitz, took an unblocked practice sack, and worked as a first-team gunner. Savion Williams defeated Cisse on a pressure with a strong pass pro rep. I kind of worded that backwards, but because I guess I copied it from the Savion thing. You get what happened. LaFleur praised Cisse's skill set and his hunger, and separately described the rookie as mature. I think seems like he looks like a second round rookie, but a promising one. And maybe we can keep our comments to that. Benjamin St-Juste. Maybe a little more intriguing. There's certainly people who are talking about your starting corners being Nixon and St-Juste. And the big storyline is that St-Juste was chasing interceptions. That was a problem that we saw from the corners we had last year. And St-Juste said that was pulling him away from scheme responsibilities, really hurt his career. So now he said his emphasis is to let the takeaways come within the call. So, combining that with the fact that he has mostly looked pretty good so far in the 5 limited pressures we've been able to see, practice we've been able to see, this could be a nice little pickup from this offseason. I think everybody's kind of eager to improve on Carrington Valentine. Jake, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think that, if Cisse's in a defense that I think prioritizes a lot of zone and match stuff, that I think St-Juste is going to be in good position a lot of the time. I don't think he's going to, again, overwhelm you with the movement skills and all of that. But if he seemed like a really smart player coming out of college, and him being able to adapt to what Minter put on his plate and really that entire defense's plate last season, I think is a promising sign for him. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good that there's some serious competition here. Now, obviously, ideally, you'd like the additions to be head and shoulders above the incumbents, of course. But again, I think it's just something that's gonna take some time. So,
yeah, Cisse is making the most of opportunities that are coming because of injuries, right? So Keyshawn Nixon is out in practice 1, and so Cisse is getting first-team reps there. Nixon comes back, a couple more practices go by, and then Valentine gets hurt in practice 4, or maybe at the end of practice 3, hard to say. And so Cisse then is getting first-team reps in Valentine's absence and making the most of them. I don't think that he's going to start. I would kind of be surprised if he starts at any point this year, but I will say that what we've seen through 5 practices so far makes you feel a little bit better about the depth that you might have at that position should guys start getting abducted by aliens, right? The turf monster grabs you, whatever. So, worth noting, Valentine had not lost his job as a starter prior to the injury. Practices 1 through 3, he was working with the starters, produced competitive coverage against Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. Christian Watson did beat him pretty bad for a red zone touchdown. But yeah, that hamstring probably concerning. It kind of feels like Valentine, St. Just, and Cisse are like a little bit of a pile of moderately equitable talent. You would probably just, due to the youth and inexperience, put Cisse significantly behind the two vets in terms of odds that he's going to get, real significant playing time. But seems like maybe there's a little more natural talent there, obviously, for the second round pick versus the other two guys. Kamal Haddon, kind of a nice note here, just that he's back from seemingly devastating injury. Who was that? Was that Derrick Henry running him over? He got hurt real bad.
Quick stiff arm.
Yeah. He's had a little bit of a minor in-practice setback due to a hand injury, I guess. He missed the first 3 practices because he was still on PUP, but then he came back for practice 4 and then immediately dislocated his pinky. But the trainers reset it, and he was able to return back to practice. Didn't get anything out of him in practice 5, but look, dude's back on the field, all right? Happy that he's physically able to do that. It was kind of a scary injury. So 7-month recovery so far, I guess, for him is what they're saying. The math doesn't really math to me since this is August, and it's not like we played Derrick Henry we didn't play him in January. That was a December game, wasn't it? So I just don't understand why they're calling it 7-month recovery. But
I think it was, but yeah, I do get what you're saying. I do remember it being a pretty late game, December 27th.
Math still says 8 to me, but maybe it took him a month to actually put him on like IR or something. I guess
know. July 27th would be 7 months. But yeah.
Andy Herman observed that through 5 practices, Domani Jackson has not been observed taking any team drill reps. No injury has been reported. So leave that to your imagination why he's not getting reps.
Sick. Looking good, people.
You and I both have a major flaw.
Start.
We both have a major flaw in our inability to hide our disdain for draft picks that we didn't like. It's just how it is. Coach Len says Babich got some talent to work with for sure.
In the safety room.
In the safety room. What is this? This is not what I'm trying to... What am I... You guys are talking about a TV show? Come on. Drew says, I hated the Domani Jackson pick and didn't have character issues. I never got as far as looking at character issues or reports in that category because I just hated what I was seeing from him on the field so much. So, Coach Len says, is Jackson really a corner? He looks like a safety to me. What do you think about that, Jake? I don't know that I have an opinion on Jackson as a safety.
I know
I didn't like him as a corner.
If he looks like a safety to you, that's something. He still might get lost in the shuffle. Might get lost in the shuffle either way, which I think it's obviously a little more notable at corner. But yeah, that's just not a good sign. Obviously, again, day 3 picks, you never know. That's the range of outcomes is all over the place, but more often than not, you're not going to see too much from them. So, guess we'll see. Hopefully, we see him out there in a little over a week's time. But yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously the really interesting thing in the cornerback room is just like Cisse and St. Juste, right? St. Juste is making us the strongest veteran push. He had a pick six, multiple pressures. Cisse is capitalizing on his opportunities, right? He's getting reps on the first team, flashing the recovery speed. He had that blitz pressure. He's getting the work as a gunner. All right, this is exciting, making it interesting. I would think that this hamstring injury to Valentine just feels like the kind of thing that we just have seen a lot of times where like that's just not the kind of thing, like those soft tissue things, they just tend not to go away real quick. And so I think this really does open the door to maybe your starting corners in week one are Nixon and St. Juste. I think like August 3rd, 2026, my prediction is you see Nixon and St. Juste as your week one starters. And then, see if St. Juste can hold on to that or if Valentine can take that job back once his leg is fully ready to go. We'll see. We got some Anthony Campbell talk. Let's see, 12 of this says the return from last season's injuries have been very interesting. Everyone seems to be healthy at the right time. I'm curious about the actual Micah timeline. I mean, like everyone is a stretch, right? Javon Hargrave is not healthy. Devontae Wyatt is not healthy. He's limited. Jordan Riley is not healthy. The whole tight end room is not healthy. So it's like Tucker Kraft is back. We don't know where Micah Parsons is. What we have to go off is Matt Schneidman saying stuff. That's what we have to go off of. Don't really know beyond that what the Micah Parsons situation is. Devontae Wyatt is at least practicing, but he's limited. Hargrave, of course, still on PUP. Which, as I mentioned, opens the door for Anthony Campbell, maybe. So Campbell's had 4 batted passes so far. Those came in 3 consecutive practices. He also had a pressure or 2. I find that interesting. It's also interesting to me, Carl Brooks getting these first team reps. Carl Brooks and Chris McClellan getting first team reps. Both seem like they look pretty good. And then like Warren Brinson, first team reps, man, with interior pass rush. You remember how excited everybody was a year ago about Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse? Stackhouse and John Ford both making credible cases for like a heavy nose tackle role. Here's my Anthony Campbell notes. Here we go. So we got the passes, and then so those all came in practices 3, 4, 5. He was making a lot of plays, and then practice 5, Campbell chased down Tyrod Taylor on a rollout and caught him, and then joined a run stop on Damian Martinez. Do you think Anthony Campbell is more than just a camp body? Like, is this enough in 3 practices to perk your attention at all?
Again, I think we're a little early on it. But the more we see, the more and hear, the more I'll be intrigued. Again, I just feel like I enjoy seeing things pop up when you get those joint practices going, and obviously when real ball preseason game full speed gets going. But he is somebody I've now marked down as okay. Let's just keep an eye out and see how things progress.
Yeah, there's also something to just mull on. Like, is he just a big, tall, fast player who is going up against a makeshift practice offensive line? How much can you take away from that? I would be interested to see if we get Jordan Riley back at any point this year. He's got an Achilles injury he sustained late in the year. I want to say it was in the Bears game, or maybe it was 1 or 2 weeks before that. But could we get him back and get some reps from him by November. Just continuing to add familiar veteran depth to that room. Intriguing to me, I'll say. Joe said Nazir Stackhouse had good push on a play. The comment was he looks bigger. I think that there's a lot of smoke here, and I'd like to see them, see the joint practice, see what, if anything, we can tell from a preseason game. There's no correlation between having a good preseason game and having a good, regular season game. Zero correlation. But I still want to see it. And it smells smoky to me. The defense smells smoky, right? So maybe there's a fire. Linebackers and defensive ends is what we have left. What do you want to hit first?
Either. I'm good to go either way.
So Zaire is the communicator. So he's our new Quay Walker, which I like because I didn't want to see Edgerrin Cooper take a step backward, right? Can we just continue the planned development of Edgerrin Cooper? He's got, we got all new coaches on this side of the ball other than retaining our defensive line coach. I'd just like to see some continuity for him here, and rather than suddenly piling all the weight of the world on this kid and asking him to juggle all the mental stuff, just continue to develop him as a movable weapon, handling off-ball range, A-gap pressure. We're seeing the occasional edge snaps. Got disguise responsibilities. I think this is probably best case scenario, is that Zaire is up to the task of being your Mike, and you can move Edgerrin Cooper around and continue to let him be a playmaker. I think that's best case scenario. Daryl says Zaire is all steady Eddie as an inside linebacker. He's going to relish. I think he'd flourish. He's going to flourish in Gannon's scheme. That I can certainly co-sign on.
Relish the opportunity to be there. Maybe.
Absolutely.
But I like flourish, yeah.
Practice 1. Zaire Franklin forced the ball loose on a Marshawn Lloyd screen and brought conspicuous energy to every period. Bill Huber selected him as the practice's standout player. Practice 4 combined with Baron Sorrell to stop Lloyd and also carried Josh Wiley extremely well on that seam route we heard about earlier. He's been repeatedly a regular part of the A-gap pressure and disguise package. LaFleur has repeatedly emphasized his veteran leadership and urgency, which is the thing we were excited about when we did pick him up. Franklin admitted he was nervous about the Packers' bike tradition because he's not ridden a bike in years, but called his first Green Bay camp special. Ryan Wood reported that Franklin had pulled Edgerrin Cooper aside during the 2025 Colts joint practice to praise his style of play. So I kind of like that note. These two guys have, Edgerrin has this positive interaction with him before the dude comes in, and for better or worse, is kind of your boss a little bit. You get the very experienced veteran linebacker coming in to be the Mike, and mentor you. We'll say mentor instead of boss, right? I like this though. Edgerrin Cooper, practice 1, closed on a screen for a stop. We like that. Stop is a negative play for the offense. Practice 2, beat Darian Kinnard for a sack, then left the competitive work early while remaining on the field with the team. He had, what was it? He had some little ding up that I didn't write down here. He tweaked something in practice 2, but he's back. Practice 3 resumed normal work and broke up a deeper target intended for Josh Jacobs. Practice 4 took occasional edge snaps and appeared in an exotic look where Cooper, McKinney, and Evan Williams formed a 3-deep shell. I find that interesting that it was Cooper not Bullard, who was back deep, right? And that's kind of fun, kind of funky. Isaiah McDuffie. Practice 1 stops Pierre Strong Jr. sharply in the run game. Practice 2 stepped into the top linebacker group after Cooper exited. Practice 4 diagnosed and stopped a Savion Williams end around. He also worked on the punt unit's front line. Practice 5 helped stop Sky Moore on third down. LaFleur called him a glue player. I mean, like we know what the deal is with McDuffie. You know, limited athletically, but savvy, understands assignments, understands the scheme. You can really lean on him in a pinch. Then Tyron Hopper, practice 2, worked with Zaire Franklin when Edgerrin Cooper left practice, which I think is encouraging. Like, that's what you want to see. You want to see Hopper getting the snaps over McDuffie when you need a third backer. And then practice 4, help diagnose and close down the Savion Williams end around and continue on the punt unit. So that's kind of it for the interesting linebackers. I think Jake might be gone for the evening. Something came up for him. I think he's got a dip. So we're just going to hit edge rushers and get out of here. We're pretty late. We're closing in on 2 hours here. So the big story here, obviously, is Lucas Van Ness being the most consistent edge presence across the first 5 practices so far. A lot of notes about him setting a firm edge, which obviously is his game. He created pressure against Jordan Morgan in practice 2. He dropped into coverage on Josh Jacobs in practice 2. Practice 3, among some quarterback pressures, he also had a tackle for a loss. Practice 4, beat Jordan Morgan and batted a pass from Jordan Love, then generated major pressure against Darian Kinnard. The thing that has come to mind for me when I'm reading about what Van Ness is doing is it reminds me of that first season when Rashawn Gary had to take over as the number 1. And it was just like, okay, yeah, no, he is ready and he is dominant in practice. And I think you got to kind of rewind and remember what his first season as the guy before he got hurt was like. I think there's been a lot of consternation from fans about what are we going to see out of LVN now that he's asked to step up and be the number 1. Why? Because you're remembering that, like, oh man, Rashawn was supposed to be the guy and, he flamed out and he's gone. But it's an apples to oranges situation because the problems for Rashawn didn't come until after his injury, right? Tore his ACL at Ford Field. But like prior to that, dude was on like having like an all-pro season. He was phenomenal his first year. And we were all like, praising like, hey, he's the face of the defense. This is the this is the Rashawn Gary defense now with Z being gone. So like if LVN for some reason like does underwhelm and isn't the guy, contrary to what we've seen, because we have seen, as long as he's healthy, we've seen him be outstanding. If things don't work out for him, it's got to be for different reasons than for the Rashawn thing. It's not, oh, we drafted this athletic guy and then it took a bunch of years for him to be the starter, and so that's the comparison. That's not the comparison. Because if you're going to do that, then you got to look at what Rashawn was before he exploded his ACL. Thanks, Ford Field. Daryl says Rashawn was slowly becoming a dud. It's kind of true, right? Like, it's weird because when he first came back from the ACL, it was like, okay, like he doesn't look like himself because it looks like he's rehabbing. It looks like he's still hurt and is healing. But he did just kind of turn into a dud slowly over time. So I don't know, did he just not like Hafley's scheme? Did he not like his position coach? Was he just really frustrated with Micah coming in and replacing him? I don't know. But it was really weird. Because, like, when he was at Michigan, like, this was, you know, Rashawn's signature was he's, you know, vocal leader, team captain. You know, there's all the clips of, like, you know, Michigan's down in that one game, and Rashawn's, like, running up and down the sideline, like, screaming at the guys, getting them amped up to go out and, you know, hold the line and mount that comeback, right? And so it really is weird that, like, he just fizzled at the end there. And I have seen so many comparisons from fans about LVN and Rashawn and, like, oh, yeah, you know, yeah, get ready for Rashawn 2.0. Like, dude, I just don't know why you do that yourself, you know? And I've gone on this, you know, rant before, but, like, we already saw the LVN breakout. You just missed it because he was injured for so much of last year. We were robbed of his breakout season because while he was breaking out and the numbers were what you want him to be, the number of games played was not there. Toll for this says emotion will only get you so far. Effort takes you the rest of the way. Yeah, and the effort just, like, clearly fizzled out for Rashawn. I wonder a little bit. People aren't going to like this. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I'll say it anyways. I wonder a bit if I've said that we got rid of Kenny Clark too late, right? I was really out on Kenny Clark for kind of a long time before we got rid of him. And the big thing that I was really frustrated about with Kenny was the effort completely evaporating. He's taking plays off. He's standing there with his hands on his hips, and, like, the ball is still in the left hand. And I wonder a bit if some of that attitude rubbed off on Rashawn. And then them bringing in Micah to replace Rashawn was like the final nail in the coffin for Rashawn's attitude. I don't know. I really don't. That's not how my mind operates anyways. Like, if I'm Rashawn and you bring in Micah Parsons to play opposite me, I'm excited because, hey, I view myself as a number one. Cool, this team has two number ones, so we're both going to feast. And you know who's not going to feast? Opposing quarterbacks. I mean, they'll feast on my fist, but, you know, that's about it. Sofa says, me at home on my couch would get home to the QB before Rashawn. Man, at least you'd be moving toward the QB. Sometimes Rashawn would just stand there, you know, like Kenny used to. Okay, Barron Sorrell. First team reps, opposite Van Ness, steady early down defender. We wondered all offseason who was going to be the guy opposite LVN. And it seemed like there were two options that made any kind of logical sense. Barron Sorrell and Brenton Cox Jr. Now we have our answer. It's been mostly Sorrell getting the opportunities, and then Brenton Cox is also getting first team opportunities, just fewer. So let's see here. Barron Sorrell. Practice 2. Defeats Luke Lachey's block to wreck a toss to Marshawn Lloyd. Practice 4. Helped stop another Lloyd run and diagnosed a rollout well enough to stay with Josh Wiley in coverage. Has worked on the front line of the punt unit. Dependable run defense and assignment execution has kind of been the calling card so far for Sorrell, which is great. That's what we were wondering if he had. So he's not producing like the splash plays that DDS is, but the reason he's holding on to the starting spot is assignment sound, execution, run defense. So Brenton Cox Jr., his main competition. Practice 1, created pressure against Darian Kinnard and drew attention to a possible holding from Kinnard via Bill Huber. Practice 3, produced back-to-back disruptive snaps, including a pressure and a run stop, and rotated into the featured pass rush package. Practice 4, beat Travis Glover in pass protection. So, seems pretty clear Barron Sorrell has the inside track on this, but Sorrell needs to keep producing and keep being reliable because Brenton Cox is right there behind him. So the really exciting, kind of sexy pick. I was talking to a friend about this about a week ago. And I said, I think the most exciting answer to who's number 2 opposite LVN is DDS. Because he's got the athletic ceiling that nobody else in competition for that spot has. And the reason that he wouldn't get it would be just that he's a developmental guy. There's a lot of mental side catch up that needs to happen. He's super raw. The technique is really unrefined. And so if the coaches trust him enough to have him out there, and you're benefiting from the splash plays that you're going to get from him, that's kind of best case scenario. And we'll talk about Colin Oliver in a second. DDS, practice 1, stops a Lloyd run and took interior snaps in a pass rush package. That's fun and interesting. Practice 2, beat Dalton Cooper decisively as a rusher and forced Terod Taylor to check the ball down on another snap. Practice 3, generated pressure from an inside alignment. Practice 4, stayed with Josh Wiley in coverage, a notable assignment for a 6'6" edge defender. Practice 5, he was the day's defensive standout, according to, was this Mike Spofford or Bill Huber? I wrote down both of their names. Maybe they both picked him. He had 3 tackles for loss and 2 additional pressures, including a forceful takedown of Jaden Nixon. Jake doesn't like DDS. I do and always have liked DDS. So, we knew the splash plays were going to be a thing with him. I don't know through 5 practices that there's much takeaway you can get from, which team he's rolling with. He's rushing against Terod Taylor. Thankfully, it's not Han McCord. I would say, clearly this is a stock up story for DDS. He's not just flashing pass rush. He's demonstrating inside-outside versatility, coverage utility, had some nice run defense plays. I certainly would not bet on DDS winning a starting job over Sorrell and Cox. But I think this is kind of best case scenario, right? Is that he looks this good this early on as a rookie 3rd round pick who had a long way to go from a refinement standpoint. So yeah, stock up on DDS. We'll continue to watch him. And then Colin Oliver. Let's see. Joe said, did you see the tweet from Wes Hodgwitz about Colin Oliver that said this is the first time he has ever seen an edge rusher have to stop his rush and put his hands on his hips to wait for the ball to be thrown? That's a stupid sounding tweet. To wait for the ball to be thrown. Well, why are you not... Just go rush the... Is it because it's a red jersey and you can't tackle him? Is that what it is? Can't you just go up and just take the ball out of his hands? I don't know. Toolvis says, Gannon just moving guys around and trying things is such a fun thing to see. Opens up a lot of options. Definitely. I want to see the disguise coverages, late blitzes. I want to see Gannon being really willing to play the guys where they want to play. And if you got guys with inside-outside versatility, go for it, man. In what way does it benefit us to have a really fixed scheme and force the players to fit that? Now, if you needed to simplify and just work on execution, sure. But it doesn't seem like that's the problem. right? Doesn't seem like that's been an issue so far. You got guys moving around. You got Edgerrin Cooper dropping back deep as a safety. You got DDS rushing from the inside. Great. And they're executing. And they're kicking this makeshift offensive line's butt. So, okay. So the downside is maybe the communication isn't going to be as good. Maybe guys are not going to be assignment sound. Okay. Then you'd be seeing that this summer. You'll see it in continued practices. You'll see it in the joint scrimmage with the Steelers. I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I really liked Jeff Hafley, but like last year didn't go well. And I support changing things up, getting funky with it. And Jonathan Gannon, for all the like weird, awkward clips that you see of him just being kind of weirdo, you can't deny that the dude gets outsized results with underwhelming talent. So I think this is great. Like, we've invested so much into this defense. Let's get a guy who's committed to just figuring out what that collection of guys can do best. It's like a polar opposite of what Hafley was. So, Jake says he has something to share at the end. So we'll put this on screen here. For the audio-only crowd, this is a tweet from Electrical Substation. I'm just here doing my job, and everyone is mad at me. I think the San Francisco 49ers just need to be the Substation 49ers at this point. Joel for this said, another tweet here that Jake's sharing with us. The Niners are expected to hold a team outing in Chernobyl before the start of the regular season. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. All right. So I think that 2 hours and 2 minutes is plenty of time. I appreciate you guys. Please do check out that the Substack, packerproject.substack.com, or if it's easier for you, packerproject.com, and just hit the Substack button at the top of the screen. Super easy. Please go join the group chat. It is free. We want to have you there. We are about to switch the day of the week that we're doing our live stream. So please send us a message if you have a preference for what day of the week we do it. I think the default is going to end up being Tuesday nights if we don't hear from like a significant number of our dedicated, educated, loyal, every week here chatters that that Tuesday's not good for you. We usually do Tuesday during the regular season because, let's face it, we are not going up against Monday Night Football. We're not even going to go up against Thursday Night Football. So probably Tuesday or Wednesday is what it's going to end up being. So weigh in and let us know if Tuesday is not great for you, because we want to know. We really want to know. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in here, and we'll be back here next Monday night for Packers Derailed. On behalf of Jake Schyvinck, I'm JJ Lahey. This has been PackerProject.com. We appreciate you guys. Go Pack Go.